Shabbat Shalom. We're going to be in Genesis chapter 41, 37 through 42:17. And the name I titled this one, Joseph is in Charge, or Joseph in Charge. I remember a program back in the 80s or something, Charles in Charge. It was pretty, yeah. Well, this is Joseph in Charge. And we're going to pick the story up with him today. His story is a very, very good story, and it's such a reflection of who Yeshua is. And we'll get into that. It'll be real obvious today. So before we get started, I asked Myra if she would come up here and do, not now, if she would do a short Hebrew lesson on Joseph's name, actually. So she's going to come up here and give us some instruction about these letters. Whatever you want to say, it's going to come out. I'm going to give you my... Yes.
All right, boys and girls, are you ready? This is a Hebrew lesson. Hebrew is read backwards, as you know. Okay? So when you read Joseph, we read Joseph, they read Yosef. Yosef. And in Hebrew, each letter means something. Each letter is a word. So not only do the letters make the sounds, but they also say a word. So the first letter up here is a Yud, and that is the hand of God. It's a very powerful letter. So if you're ever wanting to write your own name in Hebrew, make sure there's a Yud in it. Do something, put it in there. It does not touch the ground. It floats through the air, and it's kind of a connector between heaven and earth because of that. The next letter is the Vav, right here, and that makes the O sound. The Vav is the nail that holds everything together, or the spike. So this is the hand of God and the nail.
Ooh.
And this little one, is a sonic, and the sonic is a support. So if I lean on something, that's what a sonic does. The sonic is your support. So here's the hand of God, the nail, and the support. Look at the powerful name. And the last letter is a Fe, which is the mouth. And it's speaking something. So this is the hand of God holding everything together through this mouth that supports everything. Well, that's who Joseph is. You can reorganize the different letters to say it a little bit differently, but basically that's what it is. So Joseph's name is declaring over him who he is. He has a mouth that speaks for justice, that provides support for the nation of Egypt in this time, and interpreting dreams and everything else. So there you go.
It's perfect. Joseph. Thank you very much. Thank you. Okay.
The chest and the nail.
Thank you.
Okay, so we're going to start this off with the very first verse from Hebrews, and I love this verse. In the past, God spoke to our ancestors through prophets at many times and in various ways, but in these last days He's spoken to us by His Son, whom He appointed heir of all things, and through whom also He made the universe. So who made the universe? The Son, right? And these last days, He's speaking to us through His Son. When Yeshua came here, He changed everything, but He didn't change the covenant. So Joseph, as it turns out, and I became very much aware of this, I had never really thought about Joseph being a prophet before. But Joseph is very, very much one of the biblical prophets in the Bible. So just kind of keep that in mind here as we go through these slides. So in the natural, we're going to do a thing in the natural and in the spiritual. But in the natural, just to remind us a little bit what's happened the last couple weeks, the butler remembered. In the natural, the butler remembers. What did he remember?
His drink.
You remember Joseph. Joseph is in the very palace because the butler remembered. If the butler hadn't remembered, Joseph wouldn't be in the palace. And let me put it another way. That's one way to say it. How many ways can we say this? And if I just forgot. If the butler hadn't remembered, Joseph wouldn't be in the palace, and Joseph wouldn't be in the palace if the butler didn't remember. That's a parallel. Who told me? That's you. That's a parallel sentence, right? That's a parallel sentence, of which there are many in our book. You'll be glad to know. Okay. Thank you. Yeshua, on the other hand, asks us to remember him, doesn't he? This word remember is used over 200 times in the Bible. It's a very important verb. Remember. Here comes zakar. This is the Hebrew word for remember, zakar. Remember. It's a very powerful word. It doesn't mean, oh shoot, what did I do with Joseph? Where did I put him? What was it? Joseph, was that his name? No, it doesn't mean that. It means to focus attention on. Focus it's like a magnifying glass in the sun on a leaf, on a bug. Remember, did you ever do that when you didn't do that when you were a kid? No, never. No, I did.
How about a baseball glove?
With a magnifying glass?
It burns that leather right up.
Ooh, really? Ooh. Focus attention is what this word mostly means. Okay, so that was in the natural. In the supernatural, what was going on? Dreams were interpreted. Cows and grain. Pharaoh woke up and he said, was that real? That was so weird, those dreams. I had 2 of them. And it literally, he woke him up and startled his heart. When your heart is startled because of a dream, it's probably not the pizza you had the night before. Okay? He spoke to us through the prophets. Today it's through his son. So I have a message for you. If you're looking for a message from God today, open up your Bible, because the words written here are his voice.
Amen.
If you're looking for a message, I wish God would speak to me. He's full of words. This is his word. Words come from his voice. Sit down and get, and just ask him. Our biggest problem isn't asking the question. We can come up with questions one right after another, can't we? Our biggest problem is sitting quietly at his feet and just waiting for him to speak to you. Listen. Just wait and listen. It will come. He has all kinds of things to tell us. What a wonderful relationship with him this is, right? Who wouldn't want to serve a God like that? I can't even imagine, right? And one of the things I remember when my children were small, and they're big now, when they were small and in school, and the whole, I forget what it was called, some kind of hierarchy of learning was coming about. Maslow, I forget who it was. Some kind of hierarchy of learning. And they said in that repetition was one of the poorest ways of learning. And I'm just going, why, that doesn't make any sense. That was one of the educational theories. Do you remember those days?
I do.
Do you remember that? Yeah. Repetition is one of the best ways of learning something. One of these days we're just going to surprise Vicki so well, and we're going to know that Shema in Hebrew. We're getting there. Okay, so God speaks, we listen, we hear his voice, and I'm here to tell you that this is what he showed me this week. God speaks to leaders of empires. He speaks to leaders of empires. He spoke to Pharaoh, he spoke to Nebuchadnezzar, Belshazzar, Darius, Cyrus, and probably these are the ones who listened. Belshazzar got himself into a little bit of trouble. This is him over here. Remember the writing on the wall?
Yeah.
But he made a deal. He made a deal. He made an offer. If anybody can come in here and tell me what these words on this wall says, I will robe him in purple, and he will be second in command in this country. Well, so they brought David forward. Daniel forward. Daniel forward. And Daniel said, you really want to know what that says? He says, yes, I do. He says, you're going to be dead really soon. You'll be dead tonight. And he was dead tonight. But before he died, he gave that robe and wrapped Daniel up in it and put the chain around his neck. And Daniel, by the time the new guy got here, and the new guy was Darius, he said, Darius said, well, you look like you know what you're doing. You can just be in charge of this place. God speaks to emperors of empires. Now, do you suppose that God could speak to, I don't know, the President of the United States?
Yes. Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
And tell him what he needs to be doing?
Yes.
Because Israel, once again, God is making his... Somebody needs to turn the air conditioner down because it's getting really warm in here. Thank you. I will do it. Sonia, you can do it. Sonia knows how to do it. Where was I? I got so hot I couldn't remember what I'm saying. Trump.
And Israel.
Trump. Oh yeah, because Israel, the very name itself, the very word itself means that God's plan is going to be going forward. God's covenant that I keep referring to this as the covenant. God's covenant is going to prevail. It will never fail. It will never stop. It will never turn around. He will never change his mind. His covenant will prevail. Do you think for 1 minute that America doesn't have a covenant with God? We do. We absolutely do, and that covenant will prevail. And there will be some winners and there will be some losers. I'm not taking anything of that. But this country's not going down the tube, not going down the drain. There's a purpose for this country. The strength of God is shown in this country.
That's right.
Israel and America are the only two countries that have made covenants with God.
That's exactly right. And these covenants are not going to fail. Amen. Okay, so Susan, keep going here. The butler. Okay, so the point here, the Pharaoh was troubled. He knew it wasn't just a crazy dream, and the butler remembered, because the Pharaoh couldn't get any of his magicians to tell him what the words meant. So the butler goes, "Oh man, there was a guy. I remember." So here's my question, and I think this is a very good question. Actually, I was sitting here looking at all these slides this week. This has never occurred to me before. What if Joseph had gotten out of prison early? What if the butler had gone running up the stairs and the Pharaoh reinstated him and gave him his job back? And what if Butler had said right then, 2 years ago, this guy, he told me this was going to happen. And Pharaoh and if Pharaoh had said, well, go bring that guy up here. Let's just set him free, because I know who the culprit was. It was the baker, not you. And let's just let him out. Really? He came down. He's been a prisoner he was in Potiphar's house. Let's just send him home. Let him go home. He did a good thing. Now think about that for a minute. What if he had done that? We're going to get to that. Maybe I'm asking this question too soon. I don't think so. What if he had done that? What if Joseph had gotten out of prison early and gone home? And who was waiting for him at home? His dad. His dad thinks he's dead. And the brothers are all there. And what if he had gone home and he had just a little bit of not grown-upness in him yet, and he was a little bit bitter? It would have changed all of world history. We wouldn't be sitting here today at FOM had he gotten out of jail early.
And he didn't collect $200.
He didn't collect $200. No, he didn't.
And Pharaoh didn't have the dream yet.
And yeah, he had, huh? Oh, and Pharaoh hadn't had the dream yet. Yeah, had he? Yeah, that's exactly right. There wouldn't have been anybody there to You're right. He wouldn't have been anybody there to interpret the dream. So God has the destiny of Joseph all planned out. He had Joseph's destiny. If we can believe, Debbie, that he had Joseph's destiny planned out, we can believe that he has your destiny planned out. And that new grandbaby. How's the grandbaby, by the way? Beautiful?
Good. Very good.
Very good. Yay. Good. God's all about destiny, I think. Okay. So Joseph was to be the deliverer for the whole world, but God had to wait until something happened. He had to wait until Joseph was 30 years old. Interesting. We'll get there in a minute. Maybe while you're waiting for God to act, he's building your character too. He's building Joseph's character. There's something about a patience thing with God, building patience in people until the right time. Character. It's all about building the character. It's about, making you rock steady, knowing that you're not going to waver one way or the other. Okay? I remember Stan teaching about the Roman horse. Roman horses were very, very interesting creatures. It was a horse. Had 4 legs and a mane and a tail, like goats. However, they would train these horses that these horses did not go one way or the other, even if there was a fire underneath them. And they had to go through fire, that horse would go right. That's power under control. Okay? And he is wanting to know, he's wanting us to know that he's going to develop the character in us, and he's going to use power. He's going to keep your power that you have within you guys under control until the right time.
Also, I'll point out that the age of 30
Wait, I'm going there. No, because you won't get on the tape if you say it from clear over there in the kitchen. Okay, but I want you to marinate in that statement for just a minute. Power under control. If we're power under control, and anybody need to work on that besides me? Okay, I'm probably the first one that needs to raise my hand. But power under control will keep us from shooting our big mouth off at the wrong time. Right? Not always. Did you say not always? Oh. Yeah. Right? Sometimes we just need to take a step back. Thank you. Take a step back. Think of what was just said, and think about what the next words are that are going to come out of your mouth, because they're going to be powerful, and they could change somebody's life. Especially the days that we're living in now. And there's a lot, and I don't know where this is coming from, but there's a lot that needs to be said. There's a lot that needs to be said to our neighbors. There's a lot that needs to be said to our families. There's a lot that needs to be said in the mirror. But he's building your character. That's all that's going on while you're waiting until the right time. And when the right time comes, for example, this morning, I don't mean to brag on you, so don't listen, but that was very powerful, the things that were coming out of her fingers.
Oh, yeah.
And filling this room up. That was very, very powerful. That doesn't happen in every organization. It doesn't. It doesn't. The lights were on. She wasn't sitting in a dark hole somewhere like is happening in a lot of churches now. Praise and worship was filling up this room this morning. That's power under control. That's exactly what I'm talking about. The right time, boom. It happens. There's light in here. The light should be and the light will make the darkness go away every time. Every time. Okay, so a few things we need to know or remember about Egyptian pharaohs. The most powerful person in ancient Egypt was Pharaoh. He's the guy. Pharaoh is the guy. He's the guy with the, everybody follow me. He's the guy with the hat on the stick, so to speak. He was the political and the religious leader. He filled both roles. State, can you say state and church, so to speak, in Egypt was the Pharaoh. Okay? He was the political and the religious leader of the people. He was known as the Lord of two lands, and he was high priest of every single temple. He was the head doodah. As Lord of the two lands, Pharaoh was the ruler of Upper and Lower Egypt. Those are the two lands, Upper and Lower Egypt. I think Goshen, was referred, as I remember, and this always mixed me up, but Goshen up there by the mouth of the river, the delta of the river, was Lower Egypt, and the Upper Egypt was further south, which is oxymoron to me, but up in the mountains. Okay, he was the ruler of all of them. He made all the laws, he collected the taxes, and he defended Egypt against foreigners. In other words, Pharaoh was a dictator. As the high priest of every temple, he represented all the gods on earth. He performed rituals, and he built temples to honor all those gods. But he was the head one. He was God on earth. That's what he was looked at. So Joseph gives God's message to Pharaoh. That's what he was doing. The guy wanted to know what in the world was that. His heart was startled. I'm glad these pop-ups don't show up. Anyway, Joseph is not only the deliverer of his people, he's also a prophet, like we said. He is accepted. I want you to think about this. Pharaoh listened to him and he said, "Oh, that makes sense to me. Let's put you in charge." That's where we left off last week. So Joseph is a prophet and is accepted in a foreign land. Okay? In Egypt. God has shown Pharaoh what he is about to do. That's what Joseph tells Pharaoh. Pharaoh, the answer to your dreams is that God has just shown you what he's about to do. And Pharaoh believes the prophetic voice, and then he does something about it. He just doesn't sit there and go, well, we'll see. Joseph, this is very interesting. Here's the other side of the coin. Joseph was not accepted in his land or his home by his own brothers. Joseph had a couple of prophetic dreams that he was explaining to his family. Do you remember? The wheat and everything was bowing down, and the sun, the moon, and the stars. He had two dreams, just like Pharaoh did. But he was not accepted in his own country. When he interpreted his prophetic dream about them bowing down to him, the brothers wanted to kill him, but instead they sold him. Yeshua, the deliverer of mankind, also prophesied in his own town, if you remember. And the people would not believe, and they wanted to kill him too. It's the same. Can you see this? It's the same thing. Same thing happened to Yeshua as what happened to Joseph. Luke 4:24. And these are words of Yeshua. It should be red words, I suppose. Truly I tell you, no prophet, this is what Yeshua said. Do we believe him? No prophet is accepted in his hometown.
That's true.
That's true. Who do you think you are? Kind of a thing, all right? All right. So that should sound kind of familiar. These are just railroad tracks that Yeshua is going to ride into town on later. First it happened in Egypt with Joseph, and then it's going to happen with Yeshua. Pharaoh puts everything except his very own throne into the hands of Joseph, including his house, his people, and his land. Everything. People are not going to sneeze unless Joseph knows about it. Okay? That's the way Pharaoh, who everybody in Egypt believes he is God on earth, Right, exactly, right. So we'll get to him and his daughter here in just a minute, okay? Pharaoh owns all the land, and he put Joseph in charge of it, all of it, say all of it. He put Joseph in charge of all of it. And Egypt wasn't just Egypt like we think of Egypt today. Egypt was the empire of the world. It was the ruling empire that was a super. It would be like putting him in charge of the United States. That's a big deal. Okay, with all that being said, I think we can get started. Actually reading it now. So Genesis chapter 41. Steve, are you ready? Genesis 41, and we'll do 37 to 45. 37 to 45, yeah. 41, 37 to 45.
So, the advice was good in the eyes of Pharaoh and in the eyes of all his servants. And Pharaoh said to his servants, "Can we find such a one as this, a man in whom is the Spirit of God?" Then Pharaoh said to Joseph, "Inasmuch as God has shown you all this, there is no one as discerning and wise as you. You shall be over my house, and all my people shall be ruled according to your word. Only in regard to the throne will I be greater than you." And Pharaoh said to Joseph, "See, I have set you over all the land of Egypt." Then Pharaoh took his signet ring off his hand and put it on Joseph's hand. And he clothed them in garments of fine linen and put a gold chain around his neck. And he had him ride in the second chariot which he had. And they cried out before him, "Bow the knee." So he set him over all the land of Egypt. Pharaoh also said to Joseph, "I am Pharaoh, and without your consent no man may lift his hand or foot in all the land of Egypt."
Okay, so that signet ring, right? We've already seen what Judah did with the signet ring, right? Signet ring is like Pharaoh, the head guy of the empire, of the world empire, takes off his signet ring and gives it to Joseph to put on. That's what he signs documents with. It's like giving him power of attorney. It wasn't just, "Oh, here, take my ring." No. Whatever you do with this ring, that's what's going to happen. Okay? Powerful stuff. So let's do something. I know. Watch the screen. I like this. This is my favorite game. Let's connect the dots. Let's connect some dots. Okay? Pharaoh, number one, is acknowledging God. That's a very smart thing to do. When we go to God and we just sit down and have a conversation with Him, a really smart thing to work into your conversation, into your prayer with God. God, here I am again, and I am just here to tell you that I am acknowledging that you are God and I am not. Because I have a whole list of things I want to bring before you today. And I realize you're God and I'm not. And I'm not telling you how to do it, or when to do it, or how to do it, what to do it, what to do it, what to do, or even to do it. I'm just, here's my list of concerns, right? That's probably a really smart way to acknowledge Him. Maybe. Am I getting too preachy? Hope not. Okay. And Pharaoh said to his servants, "Can we find such a one as this? As the Spirit of God is in. There's no one as discerning as you." So Pharaoh is recognizing who it is that he's got here in front of him. Just like Potiphar recognized who it was watching over his house, and then unfortunately who it was that was then watching over where he works, in his prison. Right? Pharaoh is now acknowledging who Pharaoh is, or who Joseph is. I like this. So, my Jesus, my Savior, there's none like you either, is there? There was none like Joseph. There's none like Yeshua. Connect the dots. Is Joseph painting a picture of Yeshua? Yes, he is. He absolutely is. Now, I was sitting here, I wasn't sitting here, I was sitting in there, and I was thinking about this, and I'm just going, wow. Yeshua in charge of everything, and all the people are submit to your orders. Only with respect to the throne will you be, I be greater than you. Okay? I got to thinking of Joseph. He's known as a shepherd, right? When we first get introduced to him, that's what he's going. His dad says, go check on your brothers and see how they're doing with the sheep. Right? He was kind of the business administrator. So we kind of associate Joseph with the sheep. And he was put in charge of Egypt. And then I got to thinking of Daniel and the lions. And when he survived that night with the lions, he got put in charge of all of Babylon. Let's see. Joseph and Daniel. Joseph, who's going to be head of the house of Israel or the house of Ephraim, and Daniel, who's going to be from the house of Judah. We have two houses in Israel, Joseph and Daniel, and both put in charge of empires. I mean, I'm 70. Don't tell anybody that. And I've been doing this for a long time. And this week it was just kind of like, oh. Empires listen to the spokesperson of God. A lot of times their own people won't listen to them. I mean, after all, Judah missed their visitation from their Messiah. Most of them. And I'm here to tell you, today, right now, I listened to something from Hank Kuhnerman this morning, who's going to be on the list I'm going to send out to you. It's like God is visiting this planet again. Right now, he came in here today. He's here right now. I can feel him. But he's visiting this planet again. Now. It's not going to be it's a process. It's a process, and he's here to clean up the mess on aisle 6 we've been talking about. And I'll pick up the broom, whatever you want me to do. Sign that petition? Yes, sir, I will. Joseph and Daniel, two houses of Israel, and one house, we'll get there in just a minute, and it's going to verify exactly what Paul said just a few minutes ago. Why his kids are sun worshipers, and Daniel, why his kids, his people, miss the Messiah for the most part, but they're coming together. We are living in such a privileged time. It's going to be power under control. This is power under control. Seeing happening here with and all the deep state stuff that's being exposed. And it's just being exposed. There's nothing better than sunlight to clean up an infection. Is that true, Joel? Nothing better than sunshine. Somebody told me earlier, somebody here, Joel, I don't remember who it was, they said, go outside, just sit outside with your shoes off and let vitamin D just get into your feet 15 minutes a day or something like that. Just do it. It's good for you. You told me that. Okay. I don't know how we got there. Anyway, so Joseph here, Daniel here, sheep on this side, lion on this side, the Lamb of God, the Lion of the tribe of Judah. Got it? Got it. Okay. And then because this is about what's to happen. Isn't that a beautiful picture?
Yeah.
That's a beautiful picture. That's what we're in the process of seeing happening. The Lamb has already paid the price. The Lion is going to clean up the mess on aisle 6. The Lion of Judah.
The Lion King.
The Lion King, you betcha. Hallelujah. Okay. It also said, what Steve read to us, that Joseph was dressed in fine linen, and he put a gold chain around his neck. Watch what happens over here. Just things that just make you scratch your head and go, Joseph was dressed in fine linen. That must mean something. You think? He wasn't dressed in sackcloth. He was dressed in fine linen. He was dressed in fine linen. Looky here. Myra, can you read that from where you are? This is out of Revelation 19:7.
Let us rejoice and be glad and give him the glory. For the marriage of the Lamb has come, and his bride has made herself ready. She was given clothing of fine linen, bright and pure. For the fine linen she wears in righteous acts.
Is the righteous.
Oh,
Look at
for
that.
the fine linen she wears is the righteous acts of the saints. Then the angel told me to write, Blessed are those who are invited to the marriage supper of the Lamb. And he said to me, These are the true words of God.
Computer had a little trouble with cut and copy. I mean, anyway, whatever. Copy paste. His bride is going to be given clothing of fine linen. That marriage supper of the Lamb, guess what kind of clothing you're going to be wearing? Fine linen. And the fine linen is the righteous acts of the saints. That's what he's about to give us opportunity. Not about to. That's what he's giving us opportunity to do now. That's how we live our lives now. Right?
Yeah.
That's what it's all about. Joseph, fine linen. His bride in fine linen. So a position, a ring, a wife, a name, all these things come to Joseph on the very same day, and I don't think we've gotten there yet, so... Righto. That slide is out of... At any rate, look at the ring. We'll get there in just a minute. 43. Did we get there?
No, we're at 45.
We're at 45. We're at 43. So he put him in a chariot, right? Put him in a chariot. He's in the chariot's right behind the Pharaoh, and he's telling everybody with the stuff that he's got the signet ring on. Everybody in Egypt knew that Joseph was the man. Everybody. He came right in the second, and he said, they were to cry out, bow the knee. Do you know the other time that happened? Not Daniel. Mordecai in the book of Esther. Yes. And he king the king made
I gave her the answer.
the king made there you go. The king made Haman lead the horse around with this guy, with Mordecai dressed in the kingly robes, and everybody had to acknowledge that Mordecai had done something really wonderful. Well, that's the same thing that's going on here. Okay, let's see what the really wonderful. Yes.
Is that like the Father and the Son? Like the Father God and the Son.
Oh.
The Son created everything.
Oh yeah.
Right there. The Son has a signet ring on.
The sun has a signet ring on. Yeah. This Echadna stuff is really neat. Okay. Yes, please.
Isn't this the second time Joseph had a special linen garment on?
Yes. His father gave him one. It's resting at home with his father, right? With the blood on it. That's exactly right. That's good ad, Vicki. Interestingly enough, the announcement that preceded his chariot was "Make way," and it's Avrik, and the sages suggest that Avrik is counselor of the king, or father, which is owner, or Av, which here's the Av is father, was owner of wisdom. Here comes a wise man. You guys we're going to listen to him, and we're going to do what he says, because I put everything under his charge. And we'll get to that here in just a second as soon as Susan stops talking. Okay. Joseph the Hebrew now takes on the appearance of an Egyptian. Let me put it this way. Joseph is disguised. Oh, Joseph is disguised. He looks like an Egyptian. Let's see. What did Jacob look like? Jacob looked like his brother Esau. Right? Another disguise. Is he deceiving the people? Oh, okay. No. He wears robes, what he's wearing, the jewelry, the royal authority. Joseph is given an Egyptian name, which is this one right here. Can anybody want to try to pronounce it? Oh. Zaphapaneah. Somebody. Can you say that in Spanish?
Did I say it in Spanish?
Can you say it in Spanish? Oh, you can't because it's a Hebrew word.
Yeah.
I mean, it's an Egyptian word.
It's easier to read names in Spanish than English because in Spanish you read literal. You know?
Oh,
It's like the Hebrew. So the names are very similar.
very similar.
I'm
Okay.
not smart. I just read in Spanish.
And then translate into Egyptian. Okay, got it. Say it again, real loud.
Zaphna Paneah.
Everybody say that. Zaphna Paneah. It literally means Savior of the Age. That's what his name means. That's a pretty cool name. I'll tell you, at that, that marriage supper of the Lamb thing, we were talking about just a minute ago. God's going to give you a white stone right in your hand when you get there. Hang on to that, because this white stone, number one, has your name written on the back of it, a new name that nobody knows but him and you. And number two, that white stone is your ticket to admission into the dinner. Whoa. Don't lose that stone. Okay. Yes, ma'am.
It's a Hebrew name. It's spelled in Hebrew in the Hebrew Bible, but it is an Egyptian name.
I don't know. That's what you just told me. It was an Egyptian name.
But then I'm looking at it, it's spelled in Hebrew.
Well, let's go back.
Hebrew Bible. Not Paneah.
They gave him a Hebrew name? That's what, there it is.
It's written in Hebrew.
It's written right here. Paneach, mouth, Savior of the Age. I don't know, whatever.
All of them are written on Hebrew.
Yeah. It's a Hebrew Bible. Yeah.
He took on appearance of Egyptian and Jews do the same thing. He took on humanity.
You see that? Yes. Thank you. Thank you, Leonard. He always follows me up. I wasn't. I forgot. I got off onto another track. So he's taken on. No. Thank you. He's disguising himself as an Egyptian, just as Jacob had disguised himself as Esau, and Yeshua disguises himself as a man.
Yeah.
Connect the dots. Right? Okay.
And the first time Joseph came to save the world, kind of,
Savior of the age.
people thought that he was killed. And then the second time he came and really did save the world. Kind of a little...
Yeah. It's a play.
It hints of a resurrection
It's like
from the dead to life and as a Savior.
Yep.
Yeah, you can still see the pattern.
Okay, so the marriage implied that he had implied that Joseph too was a seer or a prophet of the highest caliber. And I think we need to stop here and have you read 46 to 49 before I get myself into trouble because I got my slide out of place.
45.
45 to 49. Okay, thank you. Thank you. You have no idea how hard this is.
And Pharaoh called Joseph's name Zaphnath Paneah, and he gave him a wife, Asenath, the daughter of Pharaoh, priest of On. So Joseph went out over all the land of Egypt. Joseph was 30 years old when he stood before Pharaoh, king of Egypt, Joseph went out from the presence of Pharaoh and went throughout all the land of Egypt. Now, in the 7 plentiful years, the ground brought forth abundantly. So he gathered up all of the food of the 7 years which were in the land of Egypt and laid up the food in the cities. And he laid up in every city the food of the fields which surrounded them. Joseph gathered very much grain, as the sand of the sea, until he stopped counting, for it was immeasurable.
Oh boy, okay. All right, so God's going to use this marriage to this, to the daughter of the priest of On, Potiphar, to strengthen Joseph's new position as a national leader. Alliances, this often happens in political situations. How do you think Solomon got a hold of 1,000 wives? 700 wives and 300 concubines. He had 1,000 women. But he didn't have any war. And he was, and at that time, I'm telling you, Israel was the empire of the world. He didn't have any war. But the reason he didn't have any war was because he kept making covenants, alliances with him, bringing all these women into the thing. That's why we're such a mess today. But the priest of On held the title, the greatest of seers. He was one of the greatest magicians. So when Joseph married into this family, he joined a social class that was befitting him as a national leader. Okay? You read through 50. 49, excuse me. Okay. So and he's 30 years old now, right? Yes? Okay, he's 30. All right. Thank you. All right, so Joseph is now 30 years old. We know that. And he stood before the Pharaoh, and Pharaoh went out from the presence of, and throughout all, Joseph went throughout the entire land of Egypt. How many lands of Egypt are there? 2, upper and lower. He went throughout the whole land. But before we do that, let's take just a step back in time to review something that the butler said earlier in chapter 41, and this is going to just go, it's going to make a whole nother bank of lights come on for you. So we'll step back a little feet here. And this is out of chapter 41 and verse 12. The butler says, there was a young Hebrew man with us there, a servant of the captain of the guard. And we told him, and he interpreted our dreams for us. To each man he interpreted according to his own dream. Young man, here's the word. Na'ar. Na'ar literally means youth, a young man servant. Okay? Na'ar. Now let's do a little bit of math. Because we learn when we repeat things, right? So he was 30 years old when he went to the palace. We know that because that's what the Bible just told us. And we know that he was 17 years old when he went into Egypt. So that leaves a total of 13 years. So 30, and we know that it was 2 years prior that we were waiting on. So 30, he's 30 now, and it's been 2 years had gone by. So 30 minus 2 is 28, right? After the butler had left the prison. So how long is a young man considered a young man? That's the question. Torah later tells us that a Levite could not be a priest until the age of 30. So he's what's this word? Na'ar. Young men in the Hebrew culture were Na'ars, young men, until they were 30. I can't tell you that. I'm just telling you what about each. This is Hebrew culture. This is the reason why God's plan is being moved ahead. The Egyptians didn't have anything to do with this. God is total in charge of all of this. What's going on? Okay, now let's give you some examples, just in case you want me to prove that. The number 30 is used as a sign of physical and mental maturity. It's an age when you are ripe for leadership, 30. Nearly every time its number is mentioned in the Bible, it's in reference with some significant event or responsibility. And it's an age when you are no longer a boy or a young man, you're a man, or woman, whatever the case may be. 30 years old is the age of responsibility, accountability, not 12. Not 12. That's when you become a son of the commandments at their bar mitzvah or whatever. 30 is the age when you become a responsible. Even psychologists will tell you today, all of the little kids that are running around on college campuses, their mental stuff isn't formed, and it's not soup yet until they're 25. The frontal lobe is not finished being formed until they're 25. Add 5 more years and they're 30. Now they're a little bit responsible. 30-year-olds are pretty responsible people. Huh? Most of the time. Sometimes. Most of the time. Well, they should be. They're taking on responsibilities for families and how they're going to raise their children, how they're going to buy a house, how they're going to pay off their credit card bills and their student loans, and they're going, oh my gosh, what have I done with my, how did I accumulate that much money, that much debt in my student loan, right? Duh. Yes, ma'am.
I also know that, I don't know if they still do it, but they wouldn't let them read the book of Songs of Solomon until they were 30, because they didn't want them to interpret it wrong.
Yes.
So when I heard that, I thought that was very interesting.
Yeah.
Because it's a very complex book.
Very complex book. Yeah. Get out of there. Yeah. Let's just look for some examples in the Bible here about age 30. The priests officially entered the service at age 30. Numbers 43, I think I put that in your notes. David became king at age 30. He was a mere shepherd before his anointing. United States of America, how old do you have to be before you can become president of the United States? 35. Very good. How old do you have to be before you can be a House of Representatives guy? 30. 30. Or is it 25? I think it's 30. Maybe the senator is 30 and House of Representatives is 30, 25, but I think it's
29. Well, she was maybe 30 now.
okay. Or maybe it's 25 then. Yeah, must be. I bet you're right. 25 for House of Representatives. Frontal lobe. I don't think her frontal lobe ever.
First needs more work.
Her needs. Sorry, please take it into the shop. Yeah.
21. Parliament, 21.
No. House of Representatives. How old do you have to be?
Oh, no, I'm sorry. This is
Yeah. No, I know it. You got some back. How old are you, Bella? 25, 30, and 35 in the United States. Yep.
30 for senator.
30 for senator, 25 for House of Representatives.
25.
25, yes. We have to wait until the frontal lobe has stopped moving. Okay, so at any rate, David is 30. He was a mere shepherd before his anointing. Ezekiel was called by God to be a prophet at the age of 30. And Yeshua officially starts his ministry at the age of 30. And John the Baptist was age 30 when he came out of the wilderness to pave the way for Messiah Yeshua. How do we know that? How do we know that? I can't take you to a verse that says John the Baptist was 30 years old and he was out. How do we know that?
Older than Yeshua.
Thank you. He's 6 months older than Yeshua. Okay, got it? See how we can connect dots? And it's fun. Okay.
Just a note here on the age of 30.
Yeah.
If you take the average age of the young men in Vietnam, it was 19. They
Yeah.
go and kill people. But isn't that amazing?
That's amazing.
And also in Hebrew, and somewhere in the Torah, I can't pick up the verse right now.
It's amazing.
But the age of adulthood for a man to go into the military and fight is the age of 20.
Whoa.
Where?
In the Torah, I remember reading.
In the Torah, yes, in the Torah, yes.
To go into the military
Yes.
right now, it's the age of 18. 18.
Right.
Right.
It used to be 20, but then during World War II, they needed to drop the age to 18.
To get it, have
Then
enough.
still military, and then lied that they weren't 18 just to get in the military.
Yeah. And that happened here in America too. Young brothers would lie to get into the military because they're going to, they were so full of patriotism. All right, 30.
Well, they're trying to get changed to 16 now, I think.
Oh, good Lord. No. We begin to perceive the hand. A 16-year-old put a gun in a 16-year-old hand. I don't think so. We begin to perceive the hand of God delicately crafting the masterpiece of His divine plan here. So, at the time, it's all right. At the time when the next birthright recipient, who would be Joseph because he got the coat from his dad, right, is now of age, he is brought forward to stand alongside the most powerful man in the world. This is big deal stuff. This isn't a Sunday school story with a clear color and stay in the lines. No, this is big worldwide changing stuff here. Joseph was not placed second only to Pharaoh just because God decided to bless him for his faithfulness. Joseph was being positioned for the grand drama that was about to unfold that would affect the entire world. Do you think that Yeshua was placed in the grand drama, his crucifixion, that was going to affect the entire world? Yep. And for this amazing performance that was about to happen, this grand play that was going to affect the entire world, Joseph had to be exalted beyond all reason, which is why he got the signet ring, which is why he was dressed in robes of linen, which is why he got the chariot ride right behind Pharaoh, which is why Pharaoh said, everybody bow down to this guy because he's the one we're going to listen to. Don't you wish that somebody would come along and say, all right, we're going to listen to the red words in this Bible, in the first 5 books, and we're going to find out who this Yeshua is, and everybody's going to listen to him. It would change things dramatically. Thank you, sorry. He had to be exalted beyond all reason, because this is how masterpieces happen. The potter's wheel. You can just kind of hear, you can almost hear the wheel turning and him shaping something here. So, all right. So the ground really produced during the 7-year period of time. We talked about this a little bit last week. I mean, it wasn't just 7 years and it wasn't that. I mean, the earth was helping. The earth was helping man. It was producing, it was giving all that it had. And I remembered, I can't remember where it is, maybe Genesis. I can't remember what chapter it is, 37 or 27, or anyway, where Isaac, in the year of famine, the earth produced for him 100-fold. Not just 100 times, but 100-fold. That's like 100 times 100 regular stuff. That's what was going on here in Egypt. And people were going, woo, woo. And so, Joseph requisitioned for the government a portion, not all of them, but a portion of the crops that were grown. Do you remember how much for a portion? How much? 20%. Not 30, 20%. It was like he put a flat tax on the people. And the people didn't feel a thing because the ground was giving so much grain. I want you to get a picture of that because this is a big deal. Oh, when I was married and lived in Wyoming and we had a wheat farm, I tried to imagine what that would be 100-fold. If we lived on dry land wheat, dry land, and we from last year, and then we had a sprinkler system, but which kind of changed everything. But if we were to get 35 to 40 bushels to the acre on dry land wheat, that was a good year in Wyoming. Can anybody tell me what 100-fold of 40 bushels to the acre would be? How much? 4,000? 4,000 bushels to the acre? And for that, the government wants 20% of it? I got 20% of 4,000 would be like, how many? 80? 800? And I had, so if I'm used to getting I'm used to getting 40 bushels to the acre, and instead of getting 40 bushels to the acre, and I paid my taxes, and I had 3,200 bushels to the acre, I would be a very happy farmer. And 20% requisitioned by the government was going to be enough to feed the entire world. For 7 years even. So they were going to collect this for 7 years because that's how long the earth was going to go, woo, we're happy. We have no idea what we lost in the Garden of Eden. It was probably kind of like that. You stick a flower in and it grows. Okay? It was probably as close to that as as we would see. That make sense? Anyway, let me give you a picture of what it might look like. A little bit like this. See these granaries? That would be the type of thing that you'd put the 40 bushel to the acre. This many granaries means this guy's got a lot of land. I guarantee you. So, these guys are big guys. These are big guys. See the house? This is bigger than the house. Look at this. Is the pile of grain. This is huge. I remember, I think it must have been President Ford, and he said, okay, you guys, you farmers, I want you to plant from pillar to post. And so everybody did, and that's what we got. They had so much grain, they didn't know where to put it. So they piled it out in the middle of a field somewhere, and then they would, see these are all little things of tires, can you see? I don't know if you can see that, but they were putting tarps over it to keep it dry. So it produced so much grain that at the beginning, the grain was carefully monitored. And in the end, the gathering was so abundant, it was no longer even necessary to be scrupulously counted. Joseph's plan was successful because God made it so. When your plan is successful and you're in partnership with God, He will make it so. And Joseph was smart enough from the get-go not to take credit for it. He said, I don't know. He said, I can't. Pharaoh said, I understand you can interpret dreams. And Pharaoh said, not me, but my God can. What did I say?
But it's okay.
Pharaoh said, yeah, I'm so Dutch. For the tape. Joseph said, I don't know how to do it, but my God does. As he's talking to Pharaoh, and I'll be glad to tell you what your dream meant. You just tell me. I'll stand here and listen. And sometimes when we're talking to folks, we just need to sit there and just listen to them. Don't take your eyes off of their eyes. Just sit there and listen to them. And all of a sudden, something's going to happen, and you're going to be communicating one with another. It's a beautiful thing that begins to happen. And pretty soon, you'll realize. And especially if I don't care, maybe you're sharing a recipe, that's not, but I mean if it's a problem and it's something that needs counseling, God will step into the middle and He'll start communicating between the two of you. It's a beautiful thing that happens. Paul.
I recently read an article that archaeologists have found diggings of the pits that were used for doing the grain, and they showed underground computer animation of what that looked like. And the thing that stood out for me, it looked just like a menorah deep underground. There were the 7 tubes on top where they pour in the grain, and each branch of the menorah would be able to be sealed. And at the very bottom, which would be the stand of a menorah, that's where they pulled out the grain. So where one branch of the menorah was empty, then they'd open up another branch and then just gravity fed the tubes, which were 7 of them, into what would be the stand.
That makes
It was
total sense.
underground menorah that held the
I get
grain.
that. That is, what a great, wow, that's awesome. Yep, they didn't have to do it with a shovel. Gravity fed.
Designed by Joseph.
Designed by Joseph.
7 years?
7 years. Okay. So Joseph oversaw those gathering of the storehouses. His presence, Joseph's presence, brought blessing upon the land of Egypt. The measure was like the sand of the sea until he stopped measuring, for it was beyond measure. Only God can do that. And he talks in other places about how the blessings will start to overtake you. Overtake you. You can't even keep up with them. Whoa. Don't ever hesitate or stop giving God credit for what he's done, because, my goodness, who wouldn't want to serve a God like this? He likes you guys, you know? Jesus was saying, Yeshua was saying, that he was the one kernel of wheat on his way to the cross to die, to be buried and resurrected, and this would lead to a very great harvest of souls. Now, then, back then, and in future generations. And he hasn't even begun to bring his harvest. I was thinking this morning, we talked a couple weeks ago about tares and wheat, and how when the wheat is ready and the berries are full in the head of the wheat thing bows down, and that's when you can tell the difference between tares and wheat, because the tares will just stand up here because they don't got anything in their heads at all, right? And the whole concept of bowing is worship. Okay? And he said, let them grow together until the end, and I will go out and I will pluck up the tares, and then I will bring my harvest into my barn. Do you not realize, can we not see, are we not intelligent enough to see that that's exactly what he's doing now? He's exposing the tares wherever you go. That's what this looks like. That this mess that's going on in the world, and you look at the news and you just go, whoa, they said what? You know, kind of a thing. It's the tares. He's exposing the tares. And he's about to gather them up. The cleanup on aisle 6 is about to begin. So don't fear. Fear not. Here we go. All right, 50 to 52. Oh my gosh, I'm going to be in trouble on my time today.
Joseph were born 2 sons in the years of famine, whom Asenath, the daughter of Pharaoh, bore to him.
Okay.
Joseph called the name of the firstborn Manasseh, for God has made me forget all my toil and all my father's house. And the name of the second he called Ephraim, for God has caused me to be fruitful in the land of my affliction. Then the 7 years of
Nope, hang on, just a second. 50, let's just talk about these two guys here. We'll just let's introduce Joseph's wife, Asenath, gift of the sun god. That's what her name means. She was daughter of Potiphar, and she was consecrated to the sun, and Joseph was 30 when he married her.
That's an actual photograph.
That's an actual photograph. Yes, she's a beautiful lady. Beautiful, beautiful, beautiful lady. And here's the two boys. And typical boys. And so Manasseh literally means causing to forget. Joseph processed the grief he experienced in the abusive treatment of his family members while in Egypt for 13 years. He's been down there. And God caused such healing of his soul that his mourning was turned to joy. Things are happening for Joseph, and Manasseh literally means he caused him to forget the stuff that happened. So Ephraim is the next one, doubly fruitful. It doesn't take a perfect set of circumstances for a tree to bear fruit, but normal process of winter conditions is part of the fruit-bearing process. So it was Joseph's trials which produced in him the fruitfulness that God foreordained for him. Okay? He was going to be doubly fruitful going forward. this guy becomes a really important, well, both of them. These are very important in the house of Israel in the future days. However, these two boys, let me go back here. I should say this. These two boys, we never hear one word that is actually spoken from their mouth in all of the Bible. Just their names. We don't have any of it. These boys never left Egypt. These boys were sons of the son of the priest of the sun worshiper. The priest of sun worship was their grandfather. Still, they become very important. This does not mean that Joseph forgot his father or his brothers, but God had given Joseph a divine ability to forgive, allowing him not to dwell on the evil that was done to him in the past. We'll find that to be very true towards the end of the book of Genesis. He's very important. Here's a very important truth for us to glean. Memory is a wonderful thing, but when it's owned by bitterness, it becomes very much of a snare. Let it go. Let it go. Let it go. Beware, a memory that pinpoints all of life's troubles is a friend to bitterness. And we don't want bitterness as part of our repertoire. It's not a very good tool. Okay? Ephraim, the very word is based on the word para, which is corn land, I guess, and describes a very fertile soil from which abundance of food is grown in the future. In the future, right here, the tribe of Ephraim would inhabit the land west of Jordan and in the central region, and it would be blessed with very good soil and rainfall. And those people migrated all up into Europe, and guess where all the people up in Europe migrated to? America, which is very blessed with good soil and water and farm ground. Okay, so I'm going to run through this rather quickly. He was married to Asenath, the gift of the sun god. She was a daughter of Potipharah, meaning the consecrated to the sun. It's in Hierapolis that the seat of the sun god Ra was at. The city was located in Lower Egypt, and it's called Beth Shemesh. Jeremiah has something to say about that in chapter 43. It's identified with Heliopolis, the city of the sun. That's what Heliopolis means. And today it's known as Cairo. Same place.
Yeah, that's Greek.
Ethiopia is a Greek outpost or whatever building.
That's Greek word.
Back from the Greek Empire.
Yep. Means city of the sun.
Sun city.
Yep, means, yeah, city of the sun, right?
Cairo?
No, Heliopolis.
Heliopolis. Today, well, yeah, the Greeks, remember the Greeks, Ptolemy and all those guys ruled that. But at any rate, today Cairo is the same city. Several obelisks in Rome originated from Heliopolis. Hello? As did both of Cleopatra's Needles in London and New York. Ephraim and Manasseh, their mother was Asenath. They worshiped the sun. Can you see why it's hard for Ephraim's offspring to kind of come back into the Jewish roots of things? Because their roots are in sun worship. Their DNA is in sun, and that's fine. God can deal with that. I'm not saying anything. But 15 years ago, I would have really been bashing that. I would have really been parked on this for a long time. No. Judah missed their Messiah. The sun worshippers didn't miss the Messiah. They just missed the Torah. Judah missed the Messiah, but they kept the feasts of the Lord. So see how, and we're going forward. It's all keeping, we're all going to knit this all together. All of it all together. Very interesting. You shall break this is what Jeremiah said. You shall break also the images of Beth Shemesh, house of the sun, that is in the land of Egypt, and the houses of the gods of the Egyptians he shall burn with fire. Jeremiah was calling those people, he's saying, don't go down there, don't go down to Egypt. And they said, we will. We're just going to run away and we're just going to go hide in Egypt. He said, don't do that. Oh yeah, well, we're going to do that. We don't care what you say, we're going to do that. I'm telling you, God's people, we can have really stiff necks at some points in time. It just is, we just do that. Well, I'm going to show you a couple of things here. So, is there any wonder? Here's Rome. See this obelisk right here? Right in the smack dab in the, what is it, St. Peter's Cathedral? Square? They brought that over from Egypt, and the Pope said, if anybody, you guys bring that, be very careful. You're bringing that from the city of the sun over here, and we're gonna stand it up right here in the middle of the square. And if any of you guys cause anything to even break off here one little bit, I'm gonna kill you. You'll die. Okay? That's how important this thing was to them. What's this right here? Washington Monument, Washington, D.C., right?
Yeah.
Yep, there you go. See, these are all over the world, and London has one, and New York has one, and the one in London, and the one in New York, and the one in Rome all came from Egypt.
There's one on the same river in Paris that came from there too.
One in Paris too? Okay. All right.
One of the things I'll point out about the unit in Rome, if you look at that, it is the center of the hub of the spoke of Pharaoh for his chariot.
Oh, sure enough.
You see the spokes?
Yep.
And then the roundness?
Yep.
That represents Pharaoh's chariot wheel.
There you go. There you go. So we're all mixed up. We're all messed up. We've disconnected. We've connected the wrong dots, and we just need, and God's straightening it all out. And it's going to take time because things like this take time. Okay. We can't help but build a parallel to that to Yeshua. He came to his own, and those who were his own did not receive him. But as many as received him, we're talking about Jesus, Yeshua, to them he gave the right to become the children of God, even to those who believed in his name, who were born not of blood, nor of the will of the flesh, but the will of man. I mean, the will of man, but of God, born of God. That's what we call being born again, right? Okay. Moving quickly. Here, 53 to 57, Steve, we will finish up. Tell me we got started a few minutes late today, so I won't feel so guilty. Yeah. We did, good, all right. I'm trying.
Then the 7 years of plenty, which were in the land of Egypt, ended, and the 7 years of famine began to come, as Joseph had said. The famine was in all lands, but in all the land of Egypt there was bread. So, when all the land of Egypt was famished, the people cried to Pharaoh for bread. Then Pharaoh said to all the Egyptians, "Go to Joseph. Whatever he says to you, do." The famine was over all the face of the earth, and Joseph opened all the storehouses and sold to the Egyptians. And the famine became severe in the land of Egypt. So all countries came to Joseph in Egypt to buy grain, because the famine was severe in all lands.
Okay, so we get the idea. This is a worldwide doodah, and Egypt has a worldwide famine, and Egypt has made preparation. So the famine was over all the face of the earth, and Joseph opened up all the storehouses and sold to the Egyptians. I imagine mostly he was selling to other people. When the 7 years of plenty were over, Egypt was fully prepared because of Joseph and because Pharaoh allowed Joseph to be in charge. That was a really good plan, right? All right. So the countries all came to him to buy grain because famine was severe in all the lands. All the other surrounding countries, in particular the land of Canaan. And from there, Joseph's brothers journeyed 300 miles or so.
That's a long way.
It's a long way to go to the grocery store. It's a long way. So bread and wine kind of go together. I think this is interesting. So when all the land of Egypt was famished and the people cried to Pharaoh for bread, and Pharaoh said, "Go to all the Egyptians, go to Joseph, and whatever he says, do." Hear and do. Hear and do. What is that word? Shema. Hear and do. Riding the rails to Yeshua, On the third day, there was a wedding in Cana, Galilee, and the mother of Jesus was there. Now, both Jesus and his disciples were invited to the wedding. And when they ran out of wine, the mother of Jesus said to him, "They have no wine." And Jesus said, "Woman, what does your concern have to do with me? My hour is not yet." And his mother said to the servants, "Whatever he says to you, do. Whatever he says to you, do it." Wow. You know, these dots are like, this is almost too easy. Do you have anything harder for us to put together? Well, we've never put any of this stuff together. It's time to be putting this stuff together. Okay. What is what? I'm sorry. What?
I'm writing it down.
Oh, you're writing it down. I forgot to write down the chapter. Oh, it would be John, 3. 1 through 5, I think. Okay. Here's the famine records of occurrence of 7-year drought in ancient Egypt during the reign of King, I can't pronounce the guy's name, the Djoser. Yeah, here's, it's all inscribed there on the rock. Okay. Huh?
When was that girl alive? On that rock, in other words, that Pharaoh, during that time, that Pharaoh that famine took place?
Yeah.
When it was?
Well, they didn't date things. I doubt that the thing said 1453 BC, because that's kind of counting. I'm not real sure. Oh yeah. Okay. What 42? What 42? 1 through 5. Steve. We only have 17 verses to go. We're almost done. This will go fast. 1 through 5.
When Jacob saw that there was grain in Egypt, Jacob said to his sons, "Why do you look at one another?" And he said, "Indeed, I have heard that there is grain in Egypt. Go down to that place and buy for us there, that we may live and not die." So Joseph's 10 brothers went down to buy grain in Egypt. But Jacob did not send Joseph's brother Benjamin with his brothers, for he said, lest some calamity befall him. And the sons of Israel went to buy grain among those who journeyed, for the famine was in the land of Canaan.
Okay. I love this. 10 guys standing around and everybody's starving, and Jacob got the email that morning that Egypt is selling stuff. Came in as Egyptian Weekly or something. And meanwhile, back at the ranch in Hebron, this is where they're at, and he says, "What's the matter with you? Why are you standing here looking at one another? Get your stuff together, go down and buy grain for us." You know, I don't think that this is a very happy family, do you? A dysfunctional family is still being dysfunctional. So the brothers went down to buy grain, and Joseph, that's why. So they're on their way down. They don't have a clue that it's Joseph. They don't have a clue. They don't know. They think he's they even stopped even thinking about him, I'm sure. But the 10 brothers are designated to obtain food for the family. The guilty are walking right into a reunion that is going to be the test of their lives. Jacob and who's this? Benjamin. He's not going to let Benjamin go with him, so the 10 guys are on their way down there. And I'm telling you, it's a setup for a family reunion. Yes?
In the book of Jasher, which provides history, it says that Joseph deliberately had people at every gate. Everybody had to sign when they came to buy grain. So he had people at every gate watching for his brothers. And so he said, when these people come, let me know.
Wow, it's like the prodigal sons. Almost, yeah, wow.
He was watching for them.
Yeah, interesting. Okay, let's finish this up, Steve. 6 to 17, and then we'll be done with a few more comments.
Now, Joseph was governor over the land, and it was he who sold to all the people of the land. And Joseph's brothers came and bowed down before him with their faces to the earth. Joseph saw his brothers and recognized them, but he acted as a stranger to them and spoke roughly to them. Then he said to them, "Where do you come from?" And they said, "From the land of Canaan to buy food." So Joseph recognized his brothers, but they did not recognize him. Then Joseph remembered the dreams which he had dreamed about them, and said to them, "You are spies. You have come to see the nakedness of the land." And they said to him, "No, my lord, but your servants have come to buy food. We are all one man's sons. We are honest men. Your servants are not spies." But he said to them, "No, but you have come to see the nakedness of the land." And they said, "Your servants are 12 brothers, the sons of one man in the land of Canaan. And in fact, the youngest is with our father today. One is no more." But Joseph said to them, "It is as I spoke to you, saying, you are spies. In this manner you shall be tested. By the life of Pharaoh you shall not leave this place unless your youngest brother comes here. Send one of you, and let him bring your brother, and you shall be kept in prison, that your words may be tested to see whether there is any truth in you. Or else, by the life of Pharaoh, surely you are spies." So he put them all together in prison 3 days.
Okay, we'll wind up there, but let's just take just a couple minutes. So they're looking at the gate, and I'm sure somebody, like Sonia said, somebody's checking on it, and the word is getting up to Joseph as to where they are. They had their own FBI, and they say, "Report to the guy in sales," and this is, when he sees him, he's going, well, look who's here. He's in disguise. They're not going to recognize him. It's been 13 years. Joseph is the furthest thing from these guys' mind. Joseph now adds a new title to his resume. He's management and sales, and now he's a private investigator, because he's going to find out what the heck happened. Okay? Here come the brothers. Here comes the brothers' test. Here comes the setup for truth. How will the brothers respond? How will Joseph handle this? How will Joseph get the information about his father and his brother? And how have the brothers been treating Benjamin? That is a big concern of Joseph, right? Because Benjamin is his only full brother, father, mother, and he wants to know how his father is. Okay, so Joseph relates as an angry ruler, and he calls them spies. And he's seeking truth. That's what everybody seems to be doing now in all these investigations that are going on in our own government. And he's provoking the story to see where it leads. Or do you think he's just being vindictive and nasty? I don't think so. Yeah. Joseph hasn't seen his brother Benjamin or his father Jacob in over 20 years. That's got to hurt. By pressuring them, Joseph got the information he was after. His brother is alive and his father is still alive. And naturally, he wasn't simply going to take their word for it. He wants to see these guys with his own eyes. So the truth is on trial, and it will track all the way back to Jacob's tent. And the spies are all thrown into Potiphar's jail for 3 days. And these guys don't get it yet. They don't get it yet, but they're going to have 3 days to think about it. Go to your room, right? Think about what you've done. So we'll leave it there, and hopefully you learned something. Huh? I'm going to leave you hanging. I know some of these are like cliffhangers, but we'll pick this up. Yes, ma'am. Tune in again. You betcha. Tune in again next week.